without having to go into the presentation.
Okay, so you don't want to show the presentation?
I can show parts of it, and I'll like use it as a guide, but I think since it's smaller, this is okay to just kind of talk through, and then I'll just start with introductions about us. And so you both know me. I'm Lauren. I have a kids yoga business, Yogiful. I'm in the beginning stages of turning it into a nonprofit, which I'm really excited about, to focus on my niche. And Casey and Blaine and I have been doing these trainings is this our third year? Would that be 2 years?
No, because we were before the pandemic. It's been 2 years since the pandemic, and we started before the pandemic. So I guess a little more than 2 years.
Our first one was right when the pandemic started.
Yeah.
Right. So we've been doing the virtual trainings, and we're so excited to be having this in person again in Costa Rica. So yes. Casey, would you like to go next?
Sure. My name's Casey Fight. I realize I don't have my last name up there, but it's not spelled like Fight Club, but that's how it's pronounced. And let's see, I could do a long version or a short version. I'll kind of make it shorter. I started teaching kids yoga about 15 years ago after teaching adult yoga for about 10 years or so. And I started this kids yoga teacher training because I was teaching classes at studios, and I'd either want to go out of town or be sick or just need a break. I was teaching every single Saturday and Sunday. So I started creating this training, and it started as a 7-hour training on a Saturday. It built into a weekend training. I turned it into a 2-weekend training, and gratefully I met this amazing woman, Sudi, who helped me turn it into a 95-hour teacher training, which was really cool. So we became the first Yoga Alliance registered kids yoga teacher training or children's registered yoga teacher training in the Denver metro area. And this was back in 2014, I think, 14 or 15. So God, it's been a little while now, 7 years or something. And ever since then, I've been doing these and just loving it. Sudi, my previous partner, decided to retire, and I met Lauren at her TEDx talk. I totally was blanking there for a minute. Passports to Peace, is that what it was? I can't remember. What was the name of it?
Passports to Mindfulness.
Passports to Mindfulness. I knew Passports was in there. And and we just hit it off, and I had heard about her, and I went there just to meet her and check it out, because she has all this amazing like marketing and rainbows and the flag, and the red and white tent. And so we hit it off, and she was already partnered with Lauren, as you'll hear, or with Blaine, sorry. So yeah, I was so excited to go into partnership with these two wonderful ladies and keep it going, because I was at the point where I'm like, I can't do this by myself. I need partners. And I'm so passionate about it and so grateful to be able to continue to do this, and so excited for Costa Rica because I love doing it in person. I'm grateful that the three of us like scrambled, and we had the first weekend of the 5 modules in person together when the pandemic started. And it was literally that night of the first night where we're like, oh man, we got to go online with this thing. So we shuffled really fast, and we've been doing them online for the last 2 years. So I just can't wait to be in person, because it's so fun. We're going to have so much fun. So I'll leave it at that.
I want to add, Casey, could you talk about your experience of working with kids with all different types of abilities? I know my mom, we have an amazing, my niece and her granddaughter who has autism. So I think it'd be great to hear a little bit about your experience of working with kids with different abilities.
Yeah, just over the years, when I started that first training, I've partnered with quite a few yoga studios. One of them I was with for 6 years, where I did most of the trainings before I met Blaine and her amazing studio. But we would have classes, family classes. We would have kids with special needs, from Down syndrome to autism to ADHD. Sometimes they would come into our regular classes, and other times during these teacher trainings, we'd have specific classes for them. So I've worked with a lot of kids of all different, from hard of hearing. I've done a couple special events with the deaf and a blind. Actually, they weren't blind, they were just deaf. I don't think I've had a blind child actually in class, honestly. That's an interesting one. But different physical disabilities or challenges. So I have a lot of experience. I worked with the Friendship Circle here in Colorado, which is a special organization that works with kids with all different abilities. I like different abilities versus disabilities. We talk about that in depth in the training. So I've had a lot of very different experiences. And since I met Lauren and Blaine, we really, again, even before the pandemic, we were so excited to bring more of that to our community, which has been actually harder because of being online. So we're really excited to expand that area as well. So yeah, thanks for asking that.
And I realized that there was something I missed because, I know Deborah and my mom obviously know me, but Deborah, you might not know that I started teaching kids yoga in Taiwan. So I was working in corporate, blah, blah, blah in San Diego. And I was like, okay, I'm done with this after a few years, and then moved to Taiwan. I started teaching English, and through teaching English, just as like needing to get out of the country and do it, I started learning yoga myself and I got off of ADHD medication after being on it for 12 years. And it was like my first time of learning how to regulate myself and my own thoughts, and got really into yoga in Taiwan, and then started teaching it to my classroom. And then it turned into an elective at the school. And then I started getting offered to do it at other schools for summer camps. So it all just kind of started happening before I even had a lot of experience or knowledge in what I was doing, and just loved it and went from there and got my trainings and learned, and then came here. And then I'll just add that my special like niche in this, and something that I'm really excited about in the training, is incorporating inclusivity within the kids yoga world. So I work with queer teens every summer, and also like sprinkled throughout the year. And one of my specialties is like how to use inclusive language and like simple little techniques you can do in the classroom when teaching yoga, that you can make it part of your language right now, and you don't even need to start really thinking about it, because that's the goal of inclusivity, right? Is to be able to speak in a way in your class that no one's going to probably even notice that you're speaking that way, but they will notice if you're not speaking in that way. And then that's a really interesting concept. So that's my niche and what I love to geek out on when it comes to inclusivity and also social justice within kids yoga. We have a guest speaker who will probably be a call-in or a video. Hopefully the Wi-Fi will work and we can do a call-in. Casey and Blaine and I need to figure that out, but he's a dean of culture for a school, an elementary school in Denver. And then we also have a specialist who works with kids with autism in speech therapy. And so she came on and talked with us as well. So we have a couple little sprinkles of different other specialty teachers that come in and share some knowledge throughout the course as well.
Can I share one more thing before you go to Blaine? One of the things I love is that, like Lauren just shared with her ADD, she and I have such opposite experiences, because she was on meds for a long time and went off. And I have ADD as well. And actually, I just took this test that might show signs of autism with me, which is really interesting. I haven't even gone there yet. But I got diagnosed with ADHD in my 40s, in my early 40s. So it's been almost a decade or a little less than that. But I started taking medication after like 20 years of yoga and meditation, and it just changed my world completely too. So I love that we have the two extremes. So, sometimes medication really helps, and it's good to go off of it as well, right? Like we all have different experiences. So I think that we bring a lot to our population too. I feel like people have told me in the past that our trainings are like parenting workshops at the same time as well. Many people are like, God, those are some great parenting skills. I'm like, yeah, I'll tell you more about that love and logic stuff later. But we really do integrate that into our trainings as well, to support families, to support parents, to support teachers, educators. So it's so much more inclusive than I think people realize and understand. We're working on getting that out in the marketing, but there's so much more to it. So thanks for letting me add that in as well. So hand it over to you, Blaine.
Sure. I've never had ADHD. We like joke around about like the triangle that we are. I'm Blaine. I live in Louisville. My house did not burn down and my studio did not burn down. So that's super nice. That was a long, dark night of the soul, thinking I might wake up to no home and no studio. But the area that I'm in, Old Town, survived. So that is good. So I let's see, I don't even know like where to begin, because they said so much. I did my first kids yoga teacher training in 2017. And what I remember about it is just crying so hard, like literally like pee in the pants, like laughing, crying, like laughing, crying, laughing, like stuff that just never happened in adults, like kids. Yeah, I may be crying, but like for a different way. But it was just so fun. Like I just remember being so goofy and so fun. And I tend to be a little more on the serious side. And my role in this training, besides the kids yoga experience I have, which like is not as much as Casey or Lauren, is like the deep yoga knowledge. And so when we're getting into the yoga philosophy, yoga lifestyle, yamas and niyamas, yoga sutras, like the foundation and underpinning of yoga. I teach a lot of adult yoga teacher trainings. I'm also a master in energy medicine yoga. So, and it really the energy medicine yoga really translates to the kids really well. And so I bring all that to the table. I have a student who I've had, he's odd, like he's very, he has a lot of special abilities. He's autistic. He has very severe anxiety and very severe OCD. And I started working with him twice a week when he was 19, and now he's 22. And so I'm often working with him. I'm like, and he always online, he's in New York, and I'm here, and his mother and his like primary teacher, he has many teachers, but he has like a teacher who coordinates all his teachers, and found me because of my energy medicine yoga. And they wanted yoga for him, but they also specifically wanted the energy medicine. So even though they're in New York, they found me in Colorado online. And so working with him, I'm often like, who's the teacher? Because I feel like I've learned so much from him, but I also know, like what they say, if you know a person with autism, you know one person with autism. So, but it's been, I mean, it just continues. Now he's taking college classes, and he's really into music. And so it's been really a fun journey with him.
Yeah. And as you can notice, like I said something, then Casey said something, then I said something again, then Casey said something again, and then Blaine comes in and like puts it all together in a box. Like that really represents like us three, is that Casey and I are like, da-da-da, and this, and this, and this. And Blaine's like, and we're going to meditate and do yoga and like relax together. It's this really great balance that we have, because Casey and I are like, wah! And then Blaine is this like grounded, master in energy medicine yoga and teaching yoga. And specifically you have trainings, right, for women over 40. Like, is that one of your?
Yeah. Over 50.
Over 50.
Yeah. Yeah. It's the opposite of kids.
Yeah. The opposite of kids.
Yeah. But Blaine does pull us in. We're like the squirrels, and she's herding the squirrels, the sheep.
Very true. Yeah. And one of the things I love about energy medicine yoga, Mom, just so you know, is when Blaine talks about some of this stuff, I've incorporated some of it with Riley, and I take little bits of it and I'm like, whoa, this is really cool. And it's like tapping and moving and doing things while you're doing yoga, that even for me having ADHD, I'm like, this is so much easier to do yoga when I'm thinking about like touching my body and doing certain things while I'm doing something else. So I'd be interested to see how you incorporate that, Mom, as well. So okay.
Will that be part of the training?
Yeah, Blaine loves to talk throughout. I mean, Blaine, do you want to speak to that?
Yeah, it definitely is. Like I sprinkle in depending. So the training is module, right? So so we'll work with like different age groups, and then special abilities, and then like camps. And so to the extent that it pertains to what we're doing at that time, yes, it's brought in.
Okay.
So kind of all the way through.
Yeah.
And you also usually do energy medicine yoga with us, like throughout, sure. Like
yes, because when you're just in a training, you can get tired.
Yeah.
and it's an ironic thing about yoga teacher training. All of the yoga teacher trainings is you kind of sit a lot, right? Yeah. I mean, it's not like you're doing yoga 10 hours a day. Like you're seated on your mat or your bolster, and you're like listening, and we're talking or whatever. So people start to like flag. So it's like, let's do some energy medicine yoga.
Yeah. Love it. Wow.
Yeah, we definitely have certain modules that are more active and more sitting and listening. So we do try to incorporate a lot of poses and movement throughout, but then some of them were just like, we need a energy break. So Blaine definitely leads us in that, especially because Lauren and I just get so excited, and we can just keep talking. And we're like, wait, we gotta check the energy of our students. let's come back together, and let's shift our energy and then get more into it. So
Unfortunately, in
It's really
person, we also
powerful.
have games and we're also doing other activities to like move around. We've been online a lot. So
Mhm.
when we were online, we had to regularly do energy medicine
Yeah.
practices when we were learning. Okay, I'm going to share a little bit about Rayos de Sol, which is where we'll be. Did anybody have anything they wanted to add before we go into some details of the training? Okay. All right. So hopefully my internet's working okay, but Rayos del Sol is 20 minutes, between 20 and 25 minutes north of Nosara. So Nosara is like the yoga capital of Costa Rica. It's a really beautiful area. There's yoga studios everywhere. There's a little organic grocery store. There's a market. There's many beaches. It's becoming a really popular spot in Costa Rica. I more or less consider Nosara like the downtown area of Nosara, which we're on the outskirts, is kind of like the up and coming California town in Costa Rica. You know, if you go outside of this area, it's very rural. There is a lot of building being built, but there's also a lot of land and jungle. And when you're at Nosara proper in the little downtown area, it's very condensed. There's little markets, there's shopping places. And then we're just 20 minutes north of that. You take a dirt road to get to the dirt road to get to the dirt road. So we are right by the beach. It is a 10-minute walk to a black sand beach, which is also a nature preserve. And they have like hundreds of thousands of turtles that come every year. I woke up at 5 a.m. a couple days ago and got to see 4 of them on the beach and got to just watch the mamas go back into the ocean. It was so beautiful. I've been trying to do early morning walks there. And then there's also another beach that's about a 15-minute drive away. So the closest airport is Liberia, and that's a 2.5-hour drive to where we are. And what that will look like is day of, we have a time slot. So we'll work with everybody with their flights. And at the end of that day, which will probably be around 4 or 5 o'clock, that's usually when all the flights come in, but we'll work with everyone. We'll have a shuttle that'll take everybody to the retreat center. If you want to get your own rental car, Deborah or Mom, that's also an option. And you can definitely do that. I will say rental cars are the most expensive thing to purchase here. We had one the first 4 days in San Jose, and it was $900 for 4 days. It's insane.
Wow.
So yeah, so I mean, the houses aren't even that expensive to stay. So rental cars are definitely really expensive. So we'll have that transport pickup, and it's the same thing. So we'll leave at 8 a.m. The end of the training and take everybody between 7 and 8 a.m. take everybody to the airport, and the flights are at various times, but you'll be at the airport. There's a restaurant, there's little shops and stuff to relax until you fly out. It is a small airport. I love it. It's tiny. Another option to think about, this is something I haven't really told Casey or Blaine, but Deborah, you're already coming, and Mom, I know you're going to come too, but there is a smaller airport called the Nosara Airport. So Deborah, I could walk you through this. Mom, I obviously will you. If you wanted to fly into San Jose, you could take a small jumper plane to the Nosara Airport, which is a 20-minute drive. However, from the Nosara Airport, you would need to figure out a taxi to take you from there to the retreat center, but it's only a 20-minute drive. So that is an additional option. If you're interested, it is more expensive because you have to get on this tiny little plane that is a bit shaky. So yeah, Liberia Airport. Think about your passports, make sure they're renewed. And then we have 3 vegetarian meals a day, buffet style. So we have a private chef that does all the cooking for the retreat. I just ate there a couple days ago. So delicious, lots of fruit, big spread, and I was full all the time. There's also additional coconuts and kombuchas and other snacks that you can buy at the retreat center as well. Any questions? Great. And then this is the breakdown of the modules, just to give you all some information on this. I know we mentioned it earlier. So the first module is the fundamentals of teaching kids yoga. This is really the 3 to 10 age range and all the basics of what it means and what incorporates the fundamentals of teaching kids yoga. Module 2, we step into the babies and toddlers. We do a little bit of pre and postnatal talk in there as well. Module 3 is the teens and tweens. 4 is inclusivity camps and mindfulness. And then Module 5 is the secret sauce, where we tie everything together. We do some fun teaching, and we get to all play together in this last module of kind of wrapping everything up and teaching you really the secrets and the tips and the tricks that we've learned over the years that we find are really valuable when teaching kids yoga. Casey, you want to add anything to that?
I think you covered it pretty well. I guess one thing I'll say is that, we do have it broken up in this way, but there'll be times where we'll refer back to different things for different age groups, especially like the last two, module 4 and 5 is kind of, we'll specifically say this is good for this age group, or, here's how we would handle this situation in this age group. So we'll talk about camps or mindfulness. So we'll really, throughout the training, really kind of incorporate that. And even like the fundamentals 3 to 10, well, those 3 to 5-year-olds, they're not quite toddlers, but they're preschool yoga. So we'll cover them a little bit more in the babies and toddlers. That's kind of one of my favorite modules. I've spent a lot of time teaching babies and toddlers, and that's the only age group I'm back to teaching right now since the pandemic's been happening. It's a little bit harder to get the kids classes in this moment, but yeah, we'll really spread it out. And that's been a big part of my success of being able to do a kids yoga business sustainably. And that was my full-time income for quite a few years, because I was able to teach all the different ages. We'll talk about what this will look like in schools or your own business. So we'll really dive into all the different aspects, and it's enormous. I mean, there's just, 0 to 18, there's so much stuff going on there on those 18 years, right? There are so many different developmental aspects of the kids as a whole. And then yoga really is very different for a 10-year-old than it is for a 2-year-old or a teenager, just as the kids are so different. So we've all three of us really have a lot of experience with all of those ages, and you'll get different perspectives too, which is why I love the three of us doing it, because I might do things and have experience doing it one way, and Lauren's done it a little bit differently. And again, I just like the kids are also different. So there's so much out there. And family yoga, we'll talk about family yoga in depth and how to really incorporate it, whether it's like a community event after school, or Yoga Rocks the Park has been an event here in the Denver area for a long time, like in that environment. So we'll really cover the ground as far as basically you name it, I've probably done it. We'll talk about all the different ways you can share yoga with the younger generations.
Yeah.
How do the modules break down in the training? Like, what modules are you going to do when? Do you know what I mean?
We'll do them in that order that Lauren just mentioned them.
So they'll go in that.
So
Okay. But like,
yeah.
how many, do you spend so many days on each module? Like, how is that?
I see what you're saying. Like when we were doing the modules online, they're roughly like 15 to 20 hours per module. So this is the first time that we are doing them all straight in 1 week like this. We've never done that before. So you guys get to give us feedback on how that goes. But I have no doubt that, we'll be kind of going in that order. I have no doubt that we'll fit it in. So, when we share with you the schedule, we'll kind of be like, okay, now we're working on this module and this stuff, and then this is the end of that module, moving on to the next one. But it'll feel more fluid because we're all together. Whereas what we've done in the past is weekends, like we did a weekend in January, a weekend in February, a weekend in March, a weekend in April. So we'd spread it out over 6 months.
Okay.
Yeah. And what's great about this, like being all together, is that what tends to happen if we do like a weekend module is we have the dedicated 15, 20 hours. And then if we have a really long, amazing conversation about something, then we tend to go over. But since we're doing this all together, we'll be able to just say, okay, this module's running a little over. We had this really exceptional conversation. We're going to continue talking about this. Or, okay, we all understand this. We all have experiences this. We're going to move on to the next conversation.
Sorry, I
It's
like
been
making
so
faces with the
long
kids.
Oh,
in a while. Yeah. So
those are great questions. We can open it up to questions, or was there more that we wanted to share too?
I have one more screen share, but it was just any questions. And then my biggest thing is just for both of you, since you're likely going to join, just thinking of between now and then, What can you do to start, like, just practice teaching kids yoga? Just try whatever you think, or Google something, or just try it out with a kid in your life, or your daughter, or your granddaughter, whatever. Like, I encourage you to, and you don't have to. A lot of people come and have never taught kids yoga before, but I recommend at least trying it and seeing what happens, and seeing like, wow, this is not working, or I have no idea what to do right now, and then you can come with a couple questions and think of it in maybe a little bit of a different way if you have that opportunity to do it before. I will say I really jumped into kids yoga without having the proper training, and I will never forget this one class that I went to, and it was like 10-year-olds, and I was doing a class that was geared towards like 3 to 10-year-olds, and I had a really bad experience, and it was fun and comical, and I figured it out, and I like moved the class around, but you know, you learn a lot, and each age range is so different, which is why we break it down into this for the modules, because the curriculum for a 3 to 6-year-old or 3 to 10-year-old is going to be so much different than that middle school age range. So it's fun to break that down and to geek out on all the different yoga activities and categories and poses and styles of doing it based on their age, and how that changes as a mom, as a grandmother, as a parent.
Do we receive like our training packets or anything beforehand to review and look at?
Yeah, so I don't know if we haven't decided if we'll mail the manual or not, but that's the teacher training manual there.
Yeah.
So we have a
So
really
it's close to 200 pages. We probably won't give it to you in advance. I mean, pretty much
Okay.
we've always given the manual at the training, because we're going to go through the whole thing. I mean, maybe not every single page. There's a lot of resources in there that you'll walk away with that we'll reference and stuff. But you know, it's an entire manual or book of everything that we'll go through. But I would do want to say, and I'm so glad you brought that up, Lauren, is like practice beforehand, because most of what people will say is like, I've had people say, oh, toddlers can't do yoga. And I'm like, yeah, actually they can. And they're like, well, I did this and this and this with my granddaughter, and this is what it's like. And I'm like, that's yoga. That's what we teach. We're modeling for them. So one thing that's really great is you can come to the training and be like, well, I tried this and this was my experience, or what would you suggest? Or, you know, is that normal? And like Lauren said, all three of us, most of our strength and expertise comes from a lot of trial and error, some education, but just experience. And really some of the best stuff that I have learned came from kids. They are my teachers, right? It's like Blaine said that earlier, like, who's the teacher here? And so the kids have taught so much that we've incorporated into the training as well. And like, this is what the kids are asking for. This is what they're doing that works. And then we've experimented, we've tried that, and it does work for many kids, and maybe it doesn't work for some kids. So there's a lot of wiggle room, a lot of flexibility, and overall it's all about fun and yoga and connecting, right?
Yeah. And that could look like everyday activities that you're already doing something, and you're like, oh wow, we're actually kind of doing yoga in one way, shape, or form, or we're in line waiting somewhere, or whatever. Figuring out some like fun ways to play with it until the training, I recommend. Cool. Any questions? Great. Well, I think that's all we have, right? Casey, Blaine, anything else?
Yeah, I mean, I could talk for another half an hour about this, but yeah, I mean,
will you be arriving early? Is anyone arriving earlier than the start date of the training?
Yeah, I'll be there early.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'll be down there. I was thinking like maybe we'll mail everybody the manuals, because bringing all those manuals down in a luggage is going to be fun. But yeah, I'll be down there. I haven't decided how many days early yet, but I'll definitely be there a few days early just to acclimate. I want to go see my land. I have some projects going on here that I need to check up on, and just see with Nicole, make sure everything at the retreat is set up and ready for us. It's rainy season at that point, so it could be raining every day. It could be not raining the whole time. We don't know. Usually it'll rain in the afternoon. So if you have like a rain jacket, I would think of, you know, loose, flowy things that feel good on your body. Yoga pants are, of course, an option, but I haven't been here in a rainy season yet, so I don't know. It's usually not cold. It's still humid and hot. So
Yeah.
flowy, comfortable things that you can put on when you're wet. I would think of that, and we'll have umbrellas there as well. I talked to Nicole about that, and we're going to be in a big yoga gazebo thing, and there's also an indoor space if we need it. So we'll be not in the rain, obviously, but if it's raining during the day, there will be rain around us. And what's beautiful about the rainy season is everything's super green and it's lush and jungly, and we're going to be around some howler monkeys, and I saw a flock of toucans the other day. So yeah.
Mhm. Yeah.
I know they call it, some people call it green season.
Yeah.
It's like,
Mhm.
what's the name for it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And being here right now in the hot season, it's great and I love it, but it is so hot during the day. Like you can't, even with the fan outside, it's just, there's a few hours during the day that you just have to relax and not do a whole lot. So I'm excited to be here in the rainy season and to experience all the lush greenness that is Costa Rica.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool.
Mm.
Well, if you have any other questions specifically, feel free to reach out. Deborah, I know we've been in communication, especially in regards to like traveling and flights and all that. I'm happy to help and be a
I'm
resource.
still figuring out like my dates. I should probably know more within the next week or two. I'll actually be in Colorado this weekend for a women's retreat in
Oh, fun.
Chautauqua Park. So I'm excited for that. But I think once I get back and talk over a few things, I'll have a better idea as far as like when I'll be there. But then I'll have to leave, I know for sure, like either the day of the retreat or probably the day up, because that's part of the plan, right? It's like everyone will fly out together.
Yep.
Okay.
It's like I think it's the 21st, but we included the
21st.
travel days on either end. So the 10th is the arrival day, the 21st is the leaving day. So that's
Okay.
those are travel days included, just so that people
Yeah.
were taking that into account.
That makes sense. Okay.
So you're
It's like
going to
crystal
actually
clear.
start on the 11th, Lauren?
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. We actually start on the 11th, and my mom might need to come a day or so late, which I've had that conversation with her, but I'll talk to Casey and Blaine about it. You'll have to do private lessons with me, Mom, all about inclusivity. Cool.
Okay.
Great.
Awesome.
Well, this is
Thank you all.
exciting. I'm so excited. Yeah.
Me too. I'm really excited for this, and
Mhm.
it's going to be a really cool mix of people. I'm trying to get in with a local school here right now to see if we can go teach there, and feeling it out. There's so many kids around, so we'll
Yeah.
make something happen.
Yeah. So great.
Cool.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Okay.
a major part of the training that we've always done in the past is, teach a class to the kids so you guys can observe what we're teaching you in action. We won't necessarily make you teach the kids unless you want to. And like, if we figure it out and we have plenty of kids, I mean, it's great to just dive right in. We don't usually expect that. But hopefully, and if not, what we've also done in some of our trainings, and when I've done them in the past, even before I met with these ladies, we'd have the free classes, and sometimes they would be packed, and sometimes we've had a few where nobody would show up. So we get to act like kids. So all of you get to act like kids, and we just take on a role, and it's just really fun. We get to improvise and play, and not go too crazy. But well, that's usually my job. But yeah, it's so much fun. Just really engaging in that experience for sure.
Yeah, and we're working with either having the local school, which would need to have a translator for that, right? So maybe going to the school and taking a trip there and experiencing that, which is very different. It's a very low-income school. There's no windows. It's one big room. So I'm trying to get in with them. And then there's a community, like a conscious community around the corner, and working with them. They really only let facilitators who are living on the land and part of the community. So working with that, but there's so many families and so many kids here that even having a free class, or however we want that to look, we'll work on getting that so that you all can see us teaching kids in action and get some observation time in.
I have done a few classes where I had a lot of kids who spoke Spanish and not a lot of English, and it still translates. I'm speaking English and they're following along. They're just doing it. We're barking like dogs, and so they hear the teacher barking, they start barking. You know what I mean? They don't need to understand that I'm asking them to bark like a dog. So yeah, it just really does cross languages. It's fun and laughter. It's just, they get it. So
Totally.
Yeah.
That was the same with Chinese. Like I didn't speak
yeah,
any Chinese, and we were doing it and they were just following me, and we all figured it out. And sometimes I would have a translator for like stories or, you know, it depends what we're doing. But yeah, it's cool to see that like cross cultural lines of how universal yoga can be, and connecting with kids, even if they don't speak your language,
Right, right. There is
whatever
a
way that
school-
is, right? Figuratively
Yeah,
too.
there is a school in Samara too. I know that's further south, but I know on their website they talk about where you can visit, or maybe set them up for a field trip, or you know, wanting to teach them something if as another option or opportunity.
Good idea.
And Viv and I were gonna go. We were gonna go stay in Samara because that was another area that some of my friends had lived in, and her kids went to school there and they loved it. And so I was researching and read a little bit on the school. I can't think of the school, but I can find it and send it to you again.
Yeah, send it to me. It's in Samara though.
Yeah, yeah. But it sounded very welcoming. If you were here visiting and you wanted to come and observe and be a part of the school community, or if you wanted to come and do art or things like that, it sounded very open, and I thought that would be really fun for Vivian and I to do together. And yeah,
Cool.
but we didn't make it there. We went
sounds
to
amazing.
Paranal.
That's a good reminder, because there's a few schools around here too that I haven't reached out to yet. So I should reach out to them before I leave and start that connection, so that maybe they have a field trip to us and they get to come to a cool place,
Yeah.
or we go to them, however that looks.
However, yeah,
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
very cool.
One other thing I want to mention too before we finish up is just, if you know anybody who else you think might be interested, people, they don't have to be 200-hour yoga teachers. They can just love yoga, love kids. Please spread the word and share this. We really want to have amazing people. So if you know amazing people, you want to bring them. And, you know, we're offering just a little referral fee. So if you have someone sign up, and, you know, we'll give you a kickback, $100 to say thank you for, you know, bringing people to the training. Plus then you get to train with people that you know and that you love or like. So yeah, help us spread the word. That would be great too.
Awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Great. Well, if you have any other questions, let us know. Thank you all for being here, and
Thank
see
you.
you soon.
Thanks for inviting me.
Everybody. Bye, Mom.
Thank you.
Okay.
Bye guys.
Bye, baby.
Mom.
Bye, Mom.
Bye-bye. Love you.
Love you. Oh.